Hola, Paradise Panther artists. My name is Mrs. Telfer, and I'm excited to be with you today to tell you about our next master artist, Frida Kahlo. Frida was a Mexican artist known for her bold and vibrant self-portraits. She was mostly self-taught and began painting after a bus accident left her with multiple injuries. Her work was heavily influenced by Mexican culture and tradition. So, vamos! Here we go, artists. People live in all kinds of houses. Small, large, many windows, only a few windows. White houses, brown houses, yellow houses, many different colored houses. Let me show you the house in which our master artist, Frida Kahlo, lived for most of her life. I wonder what color it will be. Here is a hint in Frida's native language. Her house is azul. This is a very colorful house. We see blue, orange, and green on her house. It is called the Casa Azul. In Spanish, it means the blue house. 3 years before she was born, Frida Kahlo's father built this beautiful blue house in a small village outside of Mexico City. Frida was born here. Today, the house is a museum, which shows Frida's paintings and a collection of her favorite things. Here you see Frida's parents' wedding photo. Frida's father was a photographer. Her father took these photos of Frida and her sisters when she was young. Frida was one of 4 daughters. She was very good in school. She started taking art classes when she was in high school. As we saw in the first slide, Frida's house was bright and colorful. So were her paintings and the way she dressed. She loved to dress up. You will get to see how she dressed because most of her paintings were self-portraits. A self-portrait is when an artist paints herself. Frida especially loved Mexican dresses and jewelry. Each day she braided her long black hair with ribbons and flowers or jewelry. She would try on a number of different blouses and skirts. She applied makeup carefully. One of her favorite costumes was a fancy blouse and a long, colorful skirt with a white ruffle. She sometimes wore a shawl around her shoulders, called a rebozo in Spanish. For Frida, dressing herself was like painting. She chose colors, textures, and shapes in her clothes, just like she did in art. In this self-portrait, Frida is beautifully dressed, standing between 2 white curtains. She is holding a small bouquet of flowers and a letter. She gave this painting as a birthday present to a good friend, wishing her a happy birthday on the note. When she was 18 years old, Frida was seriously hurt in a bus accident. She almost died from her injuries. Many bones in her body were broken, including both of her legs. After several months of not being able to get out of bed, Frida began to paint. Her lifetime of paintings show the sad and joyful times of her life. When she was well enough, Frida began to show her paintings to other artists. One of the artists to whom she showed her work was Diego Rivera. He was a famous Mexican artist. He liked her work and fell in love with Frida. They married when she was just 22 years old, but Frida's father was not happy about the marriage. Here's the wedding portrait that Frida painted of herself and Diego Rivera. Diego Rivera was over 6 feet tall, but tiny Frida adored him. In this double portrait, we see her dressed in Mexican-style clothing. Diego is wearing American-style clothing. He holds his palette and brushes in his right hand, while his left hand holds Frida's hand. She portrays Diego as the artist and not herself. But I wonder why she would do that. Maybe it's because she thought he was the better artist. Her husband was always encouraging her to paint because she didn't think she was good enough. After her marriage to Diego, everything Frida did showed her love and pride of being Mexican. She decorated their home with Mexican art and wore Mexican clothing like embroidered dresses and shawls with jewelry. Frida was very proud of her Mexican heritage. She loved her many pets and often painted herself with them. Her pets were very unusual, unlike yours and mine. In the courtyard of Casa Azul, she kept her pet spider monkeys, her deer, her parrots, and her pet dogs. I wonder if we will see one of these pets in the next self-portrait. Here we see a monkey and a parrot. This parrot was her favorite one, and his name was Bonito. Do you know what that means in Spanish? Raise a quiet hand if you think you know what this means, and your teacher will call on you. Yes, bonito means pretty in Spanish. Go ahead and say, Hola, bonito. Ready, set, go. Hola, bonito. Texture is how something feels or looks. In this painting, we can only feel the texture of the fur and the feathers with our eyes. Frida used lots of little brushstrokes to make it look realistic. Try this with me. Without using your voice, go ahead and feel the texture of your hair. Now, feel the texture of your face. Nod your head if you can feel how they are different. Great job. You can put your hands down now. Let's see more self-portraits by Frida. I wonder if her pets will be with her, and if she will look happier. Without using your voice, and only using your hands, go ahead and show me the shape of Frida's unusual eyebrows. Make the shape in the air using your hands. Thank you. You can put your hands down now. Frida was very proud of the way she looked and made her eyebrows stand out in all of her paintings. Frida's eyebrows might even remind you of another kind of pet you might have, a pet bird. Frida often painted herself with her pets because they were like her children, especially the monkeys. I want you to pretend you are a friend of Frida's. She invites you over to dinner at Casa Azul. But be prepared. One of her monkeys once leaped through an open window from the patio onto the dining room table. He quickly picked out a piece of fruit and ran back into the garden to hide and eat the stolen treat. Or maybe you would arrive for a nice lunch with Frida and find a monkey sitting on your head while you ate. And Frida would think this was very funny and cute. In the background of this portrait, Frida painted leaves. She loved painting leaves, as you will see in the next portrait of Mariana Murillo. Here we see leaves all over. We see them in the background and on her dress, on the flowers, and leaves on her hair bow. Look at all the lines Frida painted to make the texture of the leaves. Despite her lifelong struggle with poor health, Frida continued to paint, and she taught art classes to children in Mexico City. She taught her students to be proud of their heritage, of being from Mexico. Frida and her students studied together. They sang Mexican songs and laughed together. Her students learned about art, and they went to the museums to learn and draw. Now we are going to take another look at Frida's favorite parrot, Bonito. Bonito looks like he is having a great time. I bet he thinks that the fruit is yummy, and he has probably already been enjoying some of it. The texture of the watermelon is beautifully painted by Kahlo to look so realistic, we can almost taste the sweetness. This kind of painting is called a still life because everything is sitting still on a table. But I bet Frida wasn't able to get her pet bird to sit still for very long. Frida doesn't ever look happy in her self-portraits. That's because she had more than 30 operations to fix all those broken bones from her bus accident. As she got older, she didn't want to paint self-portraits anymore because she looked so sick. So she began painting the colorful fruit of Mexico instead. A helper would arrange the fruit on a table, and Frida would paint the still life while laying flat in her bed. I bet it would be hard to paint that way. Notice how the fruit overlaps. The watermelon is overlapping with Bonito. I bet that this painting would not have been as interesting if the fruits were not overlapping. Sometimes Frida painted a small Mexican flag with its colors of red, green, and white stuck in the fruit with a toothpick. Frida died at the young age of 47, but left a collection of great paintings which express her love for her Mexican heritage. They also tell us about her unusual life. Today, she is considered to be one of the greatest painters from Mexico. Muy bien! Great job! I hope you enjoyed exploring the life and artwork of one of the greatest Mexican artists of all time, Frida Kahlo. In your art activity, you will use oil pastels to create a piece of artwork that features colorful parrots and fruit. You will imitate Frida's national pride and use vibrant colors just as she did. I will see you next time, Paradise Panther artists. Adios, and have a great day.